more and more as we mature on this path, as we begin to wake up, you find that there's certain things that you just can't do. And sometimes it's, something, outward, like drinking or smoking, where you just realize when you go to buy, another bag of marijuana or whatever, like, this is not the way. This is not the truth. Sometimes it's more like of a psychological thing where you're speaking to your mother or your father, and the way you relate to them, you realize, gosh, I cannot relate to them as a rebellious child any longer. I'm 35 or 45 or 65. I cannot hate my mom and dad any longer. And one of the problems with spiritual awakening is it forces you into the truth. I call that a problem. It's a problem for our egoic nature. And sometimes our ego, it starts to break down right before our eyes. The very habitual nature of it begins to crumble. Now, I can remember this one day when, it was many years ago, maybe 15 years ago or so, I was in an argument with my partner, and, she was saying something to me, arguing about this or that. And I began to argue with her, and I realized it's like there was no argument there. My mind could no longer formulate an argument. It couldn't believe in an argument. It didn't believe that I needed to be right in this moment. The direct experience was that I am in unity. And when we are in unity, when we're living as unity, when we're living as the truth, we just can't be a victim any longer. We can't be guarded any longer. We can't be defending ourselves over stupid, silly little things. We can't uphold beliefs that aren't true. And so this is a very powerful thing that happens on this path. And a lot of people resist this. They say, I want those old things. And it's a good question to ask yourself, like, truly, do I want those old things? Do I want the past? Do I want the past, or do I want to wake up? Do I want to be the old me, or do I want to step into the new me, which is actually the true me, the always ever been here me? But this me has just been buried deep within. When you step into the truth, you feel liberated, you feel home, you feel complete. You no longer feel that you are a victim of life. It's hard to maintain this belief that I'm a victim the further you walk. And that belief might shift into the direct experience of life is teaching me something. Life is trying to show me something. And some people have these outdated ideas that God is an old man in the sky who's judging us, attacking us, punishing us, making us pay for our sins. But really what God is doing is trying to teach us and show us a new way of being. And for most of us, because we are so stubborn, God has to turn up the heat. But we also need to acknowledge that there is a whole different way we can learn, which is called the sunlit path. The path where you choose to live in alignment with the heart preemptively, proactively. You choose to do that first. So if alcoholism is your thing, it's not that the drink is being taken from you through being thrown in a jail cell or being in a treatment center or having to spend 85 weeks in in AA or something like that, but realizing, oh, like, I don't want this. What do I want? Oh, I want to drink water. I want to drink that which is healthy. I want to drink in God. I want to drink in life. I want to drink in this new consciousness. This new consciousness. And this is what Kundalini is wanting from you. It's wanting to bring you a higher, greater truth, where you realize and know yourself to be the very fabric of love, the very fabric of truth, the very fabric of peace, that this is what you are fundamentally. What you are is not addiction. What you are is not broke or broken. What you are is not the past, but rather this brilliant present moment. And this path can be quite difficult if we eternally choose to live in the past. It'll be radically difficult, it'll be painfully difficult if you choose to live in the past. If you choose to be your habitual sense of self, this path will be very hard. But if you go with the flow of this energy, if you go with the flow of this grace, if you go with the flow of what's being birthed in you, through you, as you, you'll begin to see the kingdom of heaven here. Here, all about the earth, just like Christ said, you will see it here. You'll see it all around you, and you'll see it within you. And the last person I was speaking with, this morning, I said I could speak about all these flowery heaven worlds and heaven realms and realms of divinity and all these wondrous things that I experience. But what's helpful for each of you is not to hear, Craig's mystical journeys or what's possible. What's helpful is to support you in your next step. In your next step. And so if our egoic nature is our major obstacle, the question becomes, well, how do I let go of this? In a very specific way. We can dream all day, or we can meditate, maybe get into temporary states of divinity. But if we have a massive ego here that's built by habit, and the habit is just repeating and recreating itself again and again in your daily lives, like, this is what we need to overcome. And it comes down to just a very basic question of, what is the truth for me right now? And for many of us who have, pain or anger, confusion, the first truth is, I need to relax. I need to let go. I need to surrender. I need to put down the fight with God, with life, put down the fight with my own psychological nature. I need to put down the fight, with whoever I'm arguing with on Twitter or whatever it is. I need to put down the fight with myself, with my neighbor, and arrive here in this moment and look, what is actually happening? And for most of you in this group, what's actually happening is there's a tremendous amount of energy, of light, that's wanting to come forward, that's wanting to flow. And are you surrendering to this? Are you opening to this? Or are you fighting with it? Are you struggling against it? That's a great question. Like, am I living in alignment with the truth? I was speaking with Neil this week, and the question became like, are you actually doing the work that you need to be doing every day? So the first job for everyone is, can we relax deeply and fully? Some of you may say, but I don't know how to do that. What does that mean? Well, okay, let's just be real basic here. Are you meditating every day? And a 5-minute meditation, like that's not going to change the habitual reality of your egoic nature. So are you giving yourself for multiple hours a day to the practice of yoga, the practice of meditation, practice of healing? You know, and so that's just a base thing. Do you support your body in rewiring your body, retraining it to live in alignment with grace? Or are you supporting it and habitually avoiding, habitually distracting, habitually distracting? So are we habitually coming into peace and making peace a way of life, realizing peace? To realize something means to live it, to embody it, to know it as oneself. So do I know myself as an egoic nature, or do I know myself as Buddha nature? And that's what this path is inviting for you, is to know yourself as Buddha nature. And if you primarily know yourself as egoic nature, of course, the most powerful practice then is meditation. Is inquiry, is where you're actively investigating. Like, what is the nature of my mind? What is the nature of my consciousness? Who am I truly? Am I an ego that's scared and frightened? Or am I a Buddha that's awakening? And it's okay to admit that the awakening process, it's messy, it's confusing, it's kind of all over the place. But when your fundamental identification is, I know myself as a Buddha who is awakening, your whole sense of self shifts and orients toward this path. But if you know yourself as an ego, like as an egoic nature, and you see this path, you're fighting, you're struggling against it, you're resisting it, like then the path is going to take a long, long time. So both are difficult. As if you know yourself as a Buddha, the path will still be difficult, but it becomes much more efficient than if you know yourself as an ego and you identify with ego. You just say, like, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. I know none of you are alcoholics. I'm just using this as a metaphor today, but it's like an AA, like you're always an alcoholic. Like, is that true? And the whole point to give up drinking, to step into something greater, to give up ego and to step into something greater. To step into something greater. And that's the invitation here. The invitation. So, it's a great question for inquiry. Am I actually doing the work? Yoga, of meditation, let's take it a step further. Am I inquiring deeply to the nature of my being? Am I deconstructing my fundamental habitual beliefs? And let's add some more. Am I forgiving? Do I forgive the past? Am I compassionate toward my own self and towards others? Like for some of us, the primary obstacle is we have to give up complaining. It's like to give up complaining, to give up being a victim, and to step into my strength. And I'm not speaking about egoic strength. I'm talking about the strength of Buddha nature, where you can humbly say, I am on this path. I love this path. This path is difficult, but I love it. And I'm going forward in the light. I'm going forward in the light. This is a great question. Am I actually doing the work? Am I choosing to do the work? Or is it, am I ridiculously resisting the work? And keep in mind, the work does not have to be unpleasant in any way. Like, I don't want to twist anyone's arm to have to do some yoga. It's like, you do some yoga, you feel good. You meditate, you feel more peaceful. When you forgive, it's like, my God. Like, forgiveness is very similar to going into a sauna. You sweat, you release, and you feel just wrung out, and you feel empty, you feel so much lighter. You feel healthy, you feel, oh my God, I feel so much better not to carry this burden, this weight with me any longer. And so please don't make me twist your arm into compassion, like to love yourself. Feels so wondrous. But to hate oneself or to ignore oneself, to deny oneself, to resist one's own strength, to bury it, this feels like hell. And so eventually we begin to see that the work is not actually work. To do the work is actually just to sit down and to let go and to be liberated, to feel free, is what the work is really like. I'm not talking about working a shovel here. We're about unburdening your own self. And that's what this light, this energy, this path is inviting for you, to unburden your humanity and to allow yourself to be held, to be filled, to be freed, to be nurtured, to be supported by something much, much greater.